Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. It's a great festival and it's a very important festival as well because sustainability is the issue of the time. And of course, we know the Rio +20, the United Nations Sustainability Conference in Brazil is going to be one of the biggest, maybe the biggest marks in the history of the sustainability. So we will be talking a little bit, or very much actually, about food waste. And for many people, food waste is, you know, we're throwing food away is out of sight, out of mind. But the thing is, it's a huge issue and it's a growing issue and it's actually a big tragedy. So Stop Wasting Food movement, in Danish is called Stop Spild af Mad. I founded it 4 years ago. We are the Denmark's biggest NGO against food waste. We're all volunteers. We're doing it on a volunteer basis because we love doing what we do. And basically what happened 4 years ago that there was not much talk about food waste in Denmark. And today, the food waste has become a buzzword in the media, and there are lots of initiatives going on, lots of political initiatives, and also the initiatives from people as well. So we are really starting to create a movement here, which is very important because the time is right for such movements. You can see a variety of people are just, you know, small amount of people who are supporting us, and there are actually 91 people who are supporting the movement, and among them you can, whoops, and it went off. Still working. Okay, and among them you can see the Poul Nyrup Rasmussen. He is the former Danish Prime Minister. You can see the MAP Dan Jørgensen. You can see the former and the present Minister for the Environment and Minister for the Food and Agriculture as well. And of course some really top Danish food personalities like Camilla Plum and brothers Prissé, and so we have a lot of, you know, people covered who are supporting our work or supporting our movement because they're also thinking it's a good idea. We published a year ago the Stop Wasting Food cookbook. It's a leftovers cookbook, and what I did is I contacted 5 really cool people: Camilla Plum, Thomas Royal Andersen, you know, the celebrity chefs in Denmark. And I told them that, guys, this is important. We need to make a book about leftovers. Not only the usual cookbook, which is, you know, like you need to have so many ingredients to make a little something and then you can throw the rest away. No, 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 no. This time we are making a book what you can do to use the leftovers, to reduce food waste. And we went to the biggest Danish publishing agency, Gyldendal, and we got the book out. And it was one of the most talked book in the last year, and we're also nominated and won the prize, the second prize for the best sustainable food book in the world. So I can just, you know, pass that around for you to see that while I'm talking. So, just to not to forget, we also mentioned in the FAO report. The FAO finally, a year ago, started to put focus on food waste. So they published a report, Global Food Losses and Food Waste. And the important part is, on the page 14, we are mentioned. And that was crazy, because it's an international report, got out to, you know, to the entire world. And we're mentioned like a good initiative, what the Danish people can do against food waste. So it's kind of a big thing. So I know I've been talking on the FAO conference last year in Düsseldorf. So it's a good thing that FAO is finally putting the focus on food losses and food waste. My talk today is going to be in 2 parts. For part 1, I'm going to address the problem. I'm going to show you what the problem is. And in part 2, I'm going to show what the solutions are. Because there's no problem without a solution, and there's no solution without a problem. And if we're, you know, move a little bit apart from the food waste, let's go to the global issue at the moment. And the global issue is basically this: we're screwed. Because the consumption This is the West. This is us, the guys, who are, must consume like zombies. And it's despite of the post-growth economy, despite of the financial crisis, we are still consuming. Now, what is happening that Brazil, Russia, India, China, they also want to consume. They also want to have 2 cars per family. They also want to throw food away. And there are no alternatives. There are no other models at the moment. They're only following the model that is already there, which is shit hits the fan. And it will if we do not change our way of thinking, our way of consumption. The FAO just published a report in 20 years. We need at least 50% more food, 45% more energy, 30% more water. What is happening at the moment that our consumption is slowly killing the planet. And it's causing, it's also the climate change, it's the deforestation, it's the urbanization, it's all those factors. Of course, the population growth, it's also a big factor, and it has to be addressed because the population is growing. In 2050, we're going to be 9 billion people on the planet. And by then, if we need to feed all 9 billion people, we need to produce 70% more food than we're producing today, 70%. Ban Ki-moon, the General Secretary of FAO of the United Nations, he told them that there is enough food on the planet. There is enough food, but yet millions are starving. And if we don't do something, it's going to be a disaster for the planet. It's going to be a catastrophe. And that's why we need to change it. You can see, for example, this family from Darfur, I mean, their entire spending money on food per week is €1. €1 for 8 people. In Denmark, well, we are throwing 60 million kroner away each year in food. So those are the relations on the food waste and food losses. And about the food waste and food losses, there are 2 definitions. If you think about the food waste, it's not only the food that is wasted if I throw this sandwich away, which I don't, of course. It is the food losses. It's measured in the Sub-Saharan Africa, for example, when they don't have the infrastructure to harvest the food, they don't have the access to food. They have the food. I mean, did you know that in Sub-Saharan Africa, they have food that could feed 48 million people? But they cannot get access to that because it's rotting on the field. They cannot harvest it. And there are lots of, I've been just talking on the conference in Bonn, in the Welthungerhilfe conference, and there's a guy from Burkina Faso, and he's told me that we have the food. We have all the food, but we have all this waste because we don't have the infrastructure to harvest the food, to storage the food. And when they get money, foreign aid for their agriculture, there comes some politician and he uses money to buy limousines instead of using it on, helping the agriculture. So they have those infrastructure that is totally screwed. Our food waste in the Western world, in the developed countries, is in the retailers and the consumers. The European Union just, produced new numbers. And the newest numbers is that the consumers, us, we are the most responsible for the food waste. Now, when you're talking about food waste, there's this, it's a prevention pyramid. Because it's a part of the whole thing, it's a holistic thing. You cannot just address one issue and say, oh, we'll do something here, or we'll do something here. No. It's the whole thing. So when you're talking about less food waste, you have to start with the prevention. It's the most important thing. It's already in agriculture. It's already in the food industry, in the processing, in the packaging industry as well, in the households. And then when you address the problem, you can minimize the problem. You can recycle. You can do leftovers book. You can, give the waste to the biogas plant, for example. And of course, if there's a good food, you can give it to charity. And only if there's no other option, you can, dump the food into the landfill. But that is not a good option. That is why we're working on the, the first stages of the prevention. So as I already told, it's in Europe and in the developed countries, 179 kilos per person in average is wasted every year, 179. In Sub-Saharan Africa, it is about 11 kilos, 6 to 11 kilos, because they don't waste food in the consumption stages. Their food waste is actually not the waste, but the food losses, which is happening on the fields. That is why a project like yours was a brilliant thing, because in Africa, they do need people like you. They do need people on the ground who can show them, not only give them the fish, but give them, you know, the tools for fishing, because they need help to become self-sustainable. There's a lot of psychology of the food wasters, and if we can see the consumers, well, I think the most important part is that people, they don't realize the waste food, they don't know what food waste is, and of course they have, it's also the age thing, because the younger people, they tend to waste more food than the older people. The older people, they're experienced, you know, the war, they experienced the lack of food. So they, you know, grandma, grandpa generation, they're very, very good in not wasting food. But the young people are wasting a lot of food. And it's also the cultural thing. I mean, I myself, I'm from Russia. I've been living in Denmark for 19 years. And when I came here to Denmark, the first thing I, of course, noticed there's lots of food. Wow. I mean, we didn't have that much food in Moscow back then, you know, after the communism, a lot of that stuff. But the second thing I noticed, and I was pissed off about it, it was the waste and the easiness, where people just throw the food away. And I remember I had fights with my school friends where I told them, you cannot throw that away. Well, of course we can, because, you know, there's lots of food. And this is basically, why do we waste food? Because we can waste food. But this mentality has to be changed, and that's why we're working on that. And of course, there's attitude versus action. And where people are asked, do you waste food? You can see 48%, they say, no, I almost never waste food. No, 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 it's not me. Someone else, not me, not me. So this is the attitude that people, they think it's someone else can take care of it, it's someone else's problem. But the thing is, with our movement, with our organization, you cannot just give us the money and, you know, have, okay, now I did something, now I can waste food, and I have a halo around my head. It doesn't work that way. It works that, you know, you have to do something yourself. You have to act. We don't want your money. If you can look in Denmark, there are the Danish food waste seasons. And of course, two seasons. One is the Christmas. The Christmas already starts in, you know, sometimes 1st of December, maybe sometimes earlier, because there are lots of Christmas lunches. And alone in Christmas, it's 1.53 billion kroner that's been wasted. And Easter is also not as high as Christmas. It's 1.4 billion kroner, but still there's lots of food wasting here. So if you're talking about the cultural thing, especially in the Western world, the Christmas and the Easter are the most important food waste seasons. And of course, if you want to fight food waste, you have to address those seasons, which we, of course, do. Those are articles from us in the press, by the way. And if we talk about the consumers, well, the numbers right now, and very soon from the Danish Ministry of the Environment, there's going to be new numbers. They are on the way. I just talked to them. And, but the recent numbers at the moment is like 540,000 tons a year is the Danish average food waste. And the consumers in Denmark, they're like 40% of that, and the industry is 60%. Which is quite different, actually, from the entire European Union, because in the European Union, they're saying that the consumers are the main responsible food waster. But again, those numbers are estimates, and there's going to be new numbers, and, well, it doesn't matter to know that there's like 15 billion or 16 billion, there's still a lot of money and a lot of kilos. And if we can see the worldwide food waste, about 50%, and it's not actually 30% anymore, it's about 50%. The new numbers from the United States, they show that since 1950s, since the, you know, the Industrial Revolution and starting to have a good life again, they started to waste a lot of food. And it's actually in the United States, it's 70% more food waste that we have today, and it's growing. At the same time, they have lots of fat people. Actually, there's 1 billion people in the world who are overweight. And we have 1 billion people in the world who are starving. And we produce food waste in the world that can feed 3 billion people. And yet, we throw it away. So it is very, very insane once you get to know that. Hunger. I mean, for example, you can, in Ethiopia, where people are, lots of people do not have food, the yearly food waste of Italy can feed the entire country of Ethiopia. The yearly food waste of France can feed the entire country of Democratic Republic Congo. So those are just, you know, the correlations, how much food we throw away and how many people could have been fed with that food. But of course we cannot do that. I mean, I cannot take my sandwich and send it to Africa and say, okay, here you go, because it will get bad when it comes to Africa. There are some other stuff that has to be concerned when talking to Africa, when talking to the food losses, but still, there is a correlation, and the correlation is the global warming. Everybody is tired of the global warming because we had Al Gore who were preaching that, and we had COP15, and then it kind of went down. And right now, Durban was not a great success either. And everybody's talking, you know, behind the scenes about the Rio Plus 20, that maybe the Rio Plus 20 will become a new COP15. I hope not, because there is not time to have another COP15. When you talk about food waste, there's actually 14% of the world's climate emissions. They are caused by food waste. And it is also, you know, the transporting. It is also the, for example, we had a campaign here last August about the apples. Lots of Danish people, they have apple trees in their gardens, lots of apples, and what do? They go to the shop and they buy apples who come from Chile or New Zealand. Come on! You have apples right there. So I mean, and when, let's say if you have, you know, buy apple that comes from Chile or New Zealand or Australia, whatever, and you waste it. I mean, lots of energy there, lots of transport already, the CO2 emissions. Moreover, there are lots of waste going on where the food is rotting. It's producing methane. It's 20 times worse than CO2, unless it is, you know, collected into the biogas plant, which is growing and emerging, which is good. So you can see, just to show you the food waste in Norway, just for a year it produces as much as 160,000 cars emissions. So you can take one of the fifth car off the road if you can cut your food waste. So it's not one of the main, you know, issues to minimize global warming, but it's one of the good things that you can do. And what you realize, they're tired of hearing about the global warming and about what can we do? Should I turn on the light? Should I turn off the light? Should I take a bike? But the food waste is another thing, and it's a very, very easy thing to do, because it's not only about the global warming, you're wasting your money, basically. So if people, you know, don't buy the global warming stuff, they can always buy the, you know, I can save money stuff. Oh, the retailers. This is Casper. Casper is one of our 5,000 members. And I got Casper on the Politiken, which is one of the Danish biggest newspapers. Casper is single, and he's angry. He is angry because when he needs to buy carrots in the shop, they're always 2 kilos. He doesn't need 2 kilos. He just needs, you know, a couple of carrots. But he cannot buy that last carrots in the shop. And he does portion sizes. He tries to, you know, to freeze it and all that stuff, but still he wastes a lot of food. And it doesn't because he likes to waste a lot of food, but because all the portion sizes are for the families. And you can see the Danish singles are actually the ones who waste most of the food. It's 100 kilo per person almost. And of course, when you talk to the retailers, it's come, the quantity discounts. And we were in the media just this spring. We're basically addressing the quantity discounts because there's this newspaper, 24 Hours, Fiat, and they made this survey about how much do you save, how many money do you save when you buy 3, pay for 2. And sometimes it's like 0.0001 kroner. So it's nothing, save a kroner, but waste for 2, basically. If you do need the food, if you use the food, if you, save the food, put that in the fridge, then you save money. But most of the time, people buy stuff that they don't need. And the retailers, they love that we do that because not only we help them throwing away their food, we also pay for that. And there's lots of talk about the best before label. And I want to ask you, how many of you know the difference between use by and best before? Sidste anvendelsesdato og mindst holdbar til. Raise your hands. That's not much. Well, basically, lots of people do not know. 20%, almost 20% of the food thrown in the European Union because people, they are afraid of, the label dates. They're afraid of that. It says here that, oh, it's best before, I'll better throw that out. And sometimes there are labels on, things like salt. I mean, it's like salt, 3 million years ago, and it's best before November. Okay. So there's lots of issues addressing about the best before and use by dates. And in 2014, if everything went good, the European Union will force the Danish retailers to sell food that is expired best before date, which is mean, for example, pasta or rice or bread or cereals. So it's, lots of those food are still edible, but people are very hysterical about the dates, and we could change that as well. And the high quality demands. Oh dear. Actually, I was talking on the Ecological Union, your generalforsamling, this spring, and I was talking with some of the producers of the, for example, cucumbers. There are lots of, cucumbers, there are lots of apples. They are thrown away because they're not beautiful enough, because they don't have, the sizes that are acceptable in the stores. And the bendy cucumbers. I mean, the European Union, they don't have this bendy cucumber rule anymore. They got rid of it in 1993, actually. But still, I mean, there are no bendy cucumbers in the stores. Why? Why there's no bendy cucumbers when you can sell them? Well, because it's easier to package and transport cucumbers that are straight. And some guys from your Ecological Union, they have those peppers or tomatoes, for example. They cannot sell it because they're too big or too small or too wonky. Lots of food waste is already happening in the production stage. Oh, and then that is the packaging. Sometimes you wonder, how can it be there's so much food, and not only food, you can see the shampoo, the cream, all that kind of stuff. How can it be, so much is still inside the packaging? You can see sometimes it's like up to 30%. So maybe, there are, those conspiracy theories that maybe the packaging producers want us to buy more of their products, and that's why they're using the packaging, so you cannot get the products out, maybe. But there's starting a small change about that, and you can see they're developing some intelligent food packaging. Arla Foods, the dairy and milk producer, they're developing packaging with a nanotechnology so you can get all the yogurt out. So this is quite interesting. And then also there's developing right now a new packaging which can tell you when the meat, for example, is about to expire because it changes colors. So this is, one of the things that could be one of the future fights against food waste is also the intelligent packaging. And you have canteens and restaurants. Oh dear. Everybody knows that, when you go to a school canteen or, all you can eat, you grab everything on the plate because you eat with your eyes, and when you come down and you eat, you just eat the half because, you know, you're already full. And there are lots of food is getting wasted in the hospitals, in the canteens, in restaurants. We had a project with the Rigshospitalet, which is Denmark's general hospital. And the girl who did the project, we just helped her, she saved them 1 million kroner in 6 months. Just 1 million kroner, just by, you know, tweaking and twisting some lean system. And also, sometimes you have to have smaller plates. Because when you have those big plates, people are just, you know, grabbing the food and they can't eat it up. So there are lots of potential here in the canteens and restaurants as well. Is it realistic to fully stop wasting food? The answer is no. It's not realistic because there will always be some percentage of food waste. There will always be some percentage of, you know, food that is unfortunately gets wasted. But we can change those big unnecessary food waste. We can prevent that, and that is what we are trying to do. On to the solutions. First of all, you must realize that you, as consumers, because we all are consumers here, we have a great power. We are no longer those consumer zombies. We're no longer, because the time is not right. I mean, we're no longer this society with lots of money, because there are lots of, you know, crises and a post-growth financial crisis, and so there are no, you know, indicators anymore that we can just, you know, waste and use and throw away culture, which we did back then. Today we are more conscious of our consumption, and it's also we are empowered. And once we start stop wasting food, we feel more empowered, not only to stop wasting food, but also doing a lot of other things. Basically, there are 3 very simple things you can do, and it can be summed into one. Buy what you need and use what you bought. That's it. And it's not only with the food, it's with everything. Because what we're facing now, we're facing a new paradigm. We're facing the world which is lacking resources and is getting worse and worse and worse. We're facing the financial crisis, which is still not over, like Steen Hildebrandt said. We need to change our mentality. And one of those mentalities is instead of being the, what I call consumer, forbruger in Danish, it's you have to consume it up, opbruger. You have to use things up, basically. And you can do a lot of things. You can do, you know, and you can see it on our book, you can see it on our website, on our Facebook, lots of recipes. We have, you know, you can freeze your bread, you can freeze your cream, you can do a lot of, you know, planning. So I'm not going to go through that because there's lots of stuff you can do, but there is, you know, the main thing is you have basically, you need to plan better, and basically you need to wake up. So, and we are waking people up. We are today the Denmark's largest consumer movement, and you can see we have contributed to a lot of things, which I will probably show you than just, you know, this plain text. First of all, the European Union. In 2010, I was in Brussels, and I was a co-developer and co-signer of the Joint Declaration Against Food Waste. It's a European document aimed at the European Union and at the United Nations, a pledge to make them reduce food waste.